views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Wow. Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. For those of you that have been with us in the last hour, well, welcome back. Today, we're talking with Dr. Dan Cohen, Divine Guidance, with my co-host today. You know, twice in his life, Dr. Cohen received divine guidance. In both instances, the information was presented to him with unmistakable clarity, and in both cases, the information was transmitted to him in a manner that could not be confused with any thought process of his own making. In other words, the information was delivered to him as it came right from source. And today's show is about this. Those events are described in his book, Addicted to My Ego. But more than that, what is it about our lives? How do we get this selection, these downloads? I've actually talked about that for myself several times. But how do we get them? And what is the choice that we have? Do we have a choice? Is this something that when we are tapped on the shoulder, we say yes to automatically? Or are there times where we really struggle with that? Dr. Dan Cohen is a neurologist, inventor, author. His focus on technology and writing relate to personal and spiritual development. You know, today we're going to talk about that. Many of you have heard he and I talk about the Soul Tech Lounge. Today we're talking about this divine guidance. What is it? What do we do with that? And how do we know that we're getting it? Dr. Dan Cohen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Pat. Great to be here.
Divine guidance. You know, I was actually at a very early meeting this morning, and I was talking about it. And I wasn't talking about it quite in the way that you talk about it. But what I was saying that I have been called one of the luckiest people on the planet. Luck. That's the way people talk about it. Now I look back and I say, was it really luck? Or did I hear something or see something that gave me insight to do something? That's what we're talking about today. What is divine guidance? And what is that how have you come to know it?
Exactly. And I think divine guidance is something that's always there with us, and we can tap into it at any time. But there were a couple of times in my life where it came so strongly, so in a shocking manner that it was the kind of thing where it was, hey, buddy, don't get this wrong. We're not going to let you miss this. We're going to make this so in your face that there is no way you're not going to realize that you're being given this information. And these are the kind of examples that for somebody, sometimes I can be so, dense, so to speak, and I need a real kick in the butt or something. And these were examples for me that were just so out there in terms of, don't miss this, you can't miss this, so we're going to give you this one.
Here's the thing that I love. Sometimes it's, you can't miss this, here it is. It's so obvious, it's right in front of us. And yet at the same time, even though it is, we may stumble, we may falter, we may step in a pothole, And, I don't know about you, but there have been, I can count them on one hand, times in my life where I've completely ignored divine guidance. Well, does divine guidance go away or does it come back and hang on and say, wait a minute, you didn't get it the first time? Let me help you out here.
Yeah, I think that happens quite frequently, and sometimes we just don't notice it. I think that happens a lot, in fact. And then there'll be another reminder, and sometimes they get stronger, and sometimes the reminders get painful, so that we do catch on, and sometimes we will not, still not follow through on them and let them go. And in part because we really don't want to deal with whatever it is that's coming up.
Yeah. I mean, when we receive that information or that guidance, I want to ask you about what are some of the things that went on as you were receiving them. And the reason I'm asking the question is that, I remember driving across the I-90 coming from the studio in Bellevue back to Seattle, where I lived in Seattle at the time. And it was about 2008. And I remember driving across the I-90, and all of a sudden I saw this vision on my dashboard. It was like a full-scale vision of the radio network, the channels, the whole thing. And I got to tell you, Dr. Dan, if you'd have asked me back in 2008 when I was very, very sick, not really doing very well, if that was a vision that I would see come to light, I don't know that I gave it a lot of thought, but the vision never left my mind. What are some of the things we feel when we receive that information, and how actually do we receive it?
Well, I think we can receive it in lots of different ways and in lots of different circumstances, sometimes subtle and sometimes in your face. And, I had a similar vision like you describe, where I had a visitor who was brought in by a coworker, and he had a product that he wanted me to see, and the guy was fairly shy about it. And when he finally handed me his prototype, I had a vision that went off in my head, much like yours on your windshield. But mine was, it went off in my head, and it was a whole movie. And it seemed to me that movie lasted 10 minutes. I mean, I stood up to reach out to this man and take his prototype product. And in the transference, when I touched his product and he still was holding on to it, that's when it hit. And all of a sudden, this 10-minute movie, which really couldn't have lasted more than a second in real time, but I saw this entire history of this product. And I was literally given the business plan for this product in that instant. And, and at the time, I didn't know anything about this.
I can tell you for myself, I did not know anything about any of it at all when I saw the vision. And what I mean by that is I was at this place that almost seemed like, are you sure this is for me? Right? Are you sure this is for me? It wasn't a matter of, wait a minute, let me see if I can get my act together. Oh, I'm very excited about it. Can I ask you what role doubt plays in either helping us accept what's been shown to us or not to see it? Because doubt is something that seems to be coming up quite a bit for people.
Well, doubt doesn't necessarily get in the way of these things, just like it didn't for you, right? I mean, you doubted what you saw.
I did.
How did you feel the next day when you recalled what you saw?
The image was so strong that it didn't leave me. And, what happened the next day for me was that the image continued to grow and expand in ways that I didn't imagine. And by the way, just so you know, this was before the launch of Transformation Talk Radio. So Transformation Talk Radio didn't exist. And so the series of activities that happened after that was me helping another man launch his network. So the opportunity showed up. But I have to tell you that I went about my life as if it were so, but it didn't have any energy. I don't know if I'm explaining it right. I didn't wake up and say, oh my God, how's this going to happen? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? It was kind of like, okay, like that. But it continued to grow. Yeah. It was okay.
So how long was it between seeing that vision and it materializing?
It actually was a matter of months, and it didn't show up right away. It showed up through another person that I was helping launch his own network. And I got to tell you, Dr. Dan, he disappeared. I remember this like it was yesterday. It was in 2009, and we were ready to launch the network on WBOQ. And all of a sudden, the guy disappears, writes a bad check for $2,200. The station owner calls me and says, you've got to launch a network. And I just looked at him and I said, why? He says, you just have to, because I had this whole plan. And within 3 months, Transformation Talk Radio is up and running. And it happened so easily. I can't even explain it. It's actually in the world of broadcasting, when you sit down with radio people and they start to grill you, Dr. Dan, about, well, wait a minute. How did you know what to do? How did you find the programmer? What? Find the programmer? Oliver shows up. He knows how to build this. So maybe when we come back from break, you can explain how divine guidance turns into divine manifestation. And sometimes we don't have to do very much. Let's take a short break, everyone. When we come back, divine guidance, is it working for you? And if not, what would you like to know? We'll be right back.
Transformation Talk Radio is dedicated to the education and awareness of Lyme disease.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Lyme Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Pat, joined here by
Dr. Nusheen Darvish.
Dr. Pat Basili and Dr. Nusheen Darvish will be bringing the most innovative, groundbreaking information, research, treatment innovations, and stories from those it affects every day.
I'm so excited to be talking about this.
We have so much to share.
Dr. Darvish and I are planning to do is connect the dots.
People suffering with all sorts of chronic diseases, it's time. It is time for them to transform.
Tune into Lyme Talk Radio and help keep our mission strong.
For the loyal listeners out there that have been listening to this incredible show on Lyme disease, we are not going to let you down. We're going to come through stronger and enrich the platform for Lyme disease awareness through Lyme Talk Radio. The message will continue, the conversations will become stronger, and the healing epic.
Are you feeling stagnant or blocked in your love life, career, health, or finances? Experiencing difficulty focusing or setting and achieving goals? Tune in to Spiritual Diagnostics Radio with psychic visionary healers Carol Dorian and Suzanne Evans. Discover the cause and effect of unwanted patterns in life. Tune in every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit spiritualdeed.com.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Do you ever feel as if you're working twice as hard but only getting half as far? Are you trying to connect with your path in life and finding it elusive? Mainstream Metaphysics Radio is a weekly call-in show where we harness our connection with the universe and use what is in our power to affect change for optimal success and happiness. This hit show bridges the divide between what is and what we do not know. Eve, named one of the country's top psychics, also known as the MBA psychic, invites you on this journey for this live call-in show with readings, featured guests, leaders, and visionaries in both business and spiritual callings. So join Eve Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com as she takes metaphysics mainstream. For more information about Eve, visit ldquoAddicted.com. That's ldquoAddicted.com.
In this maze, losing love, losing friends, losing faith in chemicals, afraid one day you'll find me asleep above the stars.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Divine Guidance with my very special friend and co-host, Dr. Dan Cohen. Before we jump into Divine Guidance and the information that we get, and the question of how do we feel the next day when we do get this information, how can people find out more about you, Dr. Dan? How can they find out about the Soul Tech Lounge? What's the best way to do that?
I think the best way is to go visit tools2awaken.com. That's tools, so it's TOOLS, awaken, AWAKEN.com.
Awesome. Today we're talking about divine guidance. And, this is a term that many people are familiar with and many people are not. But even if you're not familiar with the term, there's an energy and a sense of it that people are familiar with. Have you ever driven down the road and thought, you know what, I'm not going to take that route today. I'm actually going to go the scenic route today. And you're driving down the scenic route and you find out that other route that you would have taken got backed up, big time from a car accident or something. You were asking me a couple of questions about the vision, and I would love for you to talk with us a bit about divine guidance and how that does turn into something that we actually live and breathe in life, those moments of guidance.
Yeah, I think that the dilemma for people here is free will versus destiny. That's where this topic always degenerates into that issue of well, which is it? And in fact, I think it's both, because there is a plan. I mean, when you, for instance, in your example, you were shown something that if you hadn't seen it, you yourself told me that you probably would not have opted to go that way, right?
No. Yeah.
And so you were, I would say that it was part of your plan to do it, and you ultimately did do it, actually very soon thereafter. And as you said, it came together miraculously fast and effortlessly. And all of that happened because, guess what? It was your plan. And so it was really your destiny to do that. But, there was also a sense on your spiritual side, from your spiritual self, that there was resistance in you. And so it was decided to give you a little peek, pull the shades back a little bit, show you that vision so that, in essence, grease the skids so that you'd be amenable to go down that path, because all of a sudden it became familiar to you because you've seen it now. And you that gave you some confidence that it could be done. And so that's where the free will comes into play, because you still had to make the decision. You still could have said, no, I'm not doing it. And so the two play hand in hand. But I would guess, because it was your plan, that if you decided at that point not to do it, there would have been another nudge or something else would have happened that really did push you into that decision to go ahead and do it.
Yeah. And, I was sharing the story of what happened shortly thereafter, which led to the creation of Transformation Talk Radio. And the things that I love about being able to talk about this is that people generally and at least my experience is, we kind of have settled into the idea, and I'm not saying everybody, but you know who I'm talking about, that divine guidance is for the very few. It's for the special people. And I think that's the myth that I overcame, because I'm not one of those people. I'm a girl from the Bronx that stuttered most of my teenage years. So to even have an idea that I'd be able to talk for a living, no, totally not in my wheelhouse, not in my vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of this is to be able to not just see, feel, hear when it's happening, but what do we do next? What do we do next? What are some of the things that we should be looking out for here?
I think that the biggest thing is fear. You know, I remember when one of these things happened to me, it was pretty dramatic in that it was funny because I was all alone in a soundproof room. And I was in there waiting for some people to come, and the people coming I hadn't met. And so I was alone. I mean, it was dead quiet. And all of a sudden, there's a voice to my left that says, hello. And there was nobody there, of course. I was alone in a soundproof room. And I still turned, and I looked, and nothing. And then the next thing was, whatever was there said, you're about to meet your next wife. And I was absolutely floored because I was married. I was not separated, not unhappy, not divorced, nothing like that. Had 4 kids. Wasn't thinking about, leaving my wife and family. And then that message comes. And the next 50 days were the worst days of my life. And fear, I mean, it was all about fear. It was, I can't do this. I can't do this to my wife. I just can't do this. What would happen to her? What would she think? What about the kids? I mean, everything about that. I was not raised that way, and it was devastating for me. But by the same token, deep down inside, I absolutely knew I had to do this. But fear typically gets in the way of these kinds of things. And that's why, I mean, you and I are talking about examples that are extreme and drastic. Yeah. And I think these are good examples because, where do they come from? How does it lead to manifestation? And I think when they're that shocking, it resonates through you in such a way that you feel like, I have to go with this decision because it is so out of the ordinary. And when this person did walk in the door 10 minutes later, 10 minutes after I heard that message, as soon as she did, I was like, oh my God, I know her. I mean, I didn't know her in this life, but I absolutely knew her, and I absolutely knew that this was a path I was going to have to take.
Yeah. It's funny we're talking about that. I had that same experience. And, there's this, and it really leads to really the next question I have. There is this thing that I call knowing, and it's not smart knowing. It's not book knowing. It's more of a street smart knowing. Now, right? I mean, growing up in the streets of New York, right? And, there's this knowing. And the knowing is, you probably shouldn't walk down that street at this time of night. Okay? It's a knowing. It's not like even logic. It's just this thing or you kind of know or have a sense of things. And I love that you shared that story, because I think each of us has an opportunity to be in that knowing space. The question really is, what happens if we are in that space? And, you talked about fear. What is it that fear can do to the energy of that knowing? And, people say, I don't know. I'm not getting that. I've never had divine guidance. I've never, and I can think of times in my life where I've had it and I've turned away from it. Many times I've turned away from it. I can remember that early in my life, but I don't have a lot of those instances. And I wanted you to talk about this. My experience is every time I've turned away from something, some other version of it has come back. Can you talk about that? Is that an anomaly, or is that what happens to things that, I don't know, we're meant to do? Destiny.
Yeah. I think, it's funny because I think what they really are just two different states of being. Okay, when you say knowing, what you're really referring to, in my vernacular, is at that point you're existing as what you truly are. You are existing as your spiritual self, and that is coming through, and therefore you just know, and you don't have to think. I mean, all of that comes from being in the moment, in the present, and you are simply being in that state of knowing, of being. Being and knowing, they're one and the same, okay? And unfortunately, most of us don't live like that most of the time. Most of us live in, from the vantage point of our ego, okay? And so when fear sets in, you immediately know that's ego, okay? And so when you have the ability to move yourself into a state of being and live in that state, then most of what happens to you is from that sense of knowing, and you make the decisions accordingly. And although we've been talking about very significant forms of guidance, I'm sure you receive this kind of guidance every day in lesser form when you're living in a state of being, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So,
I want to just tell you this, though. Also, I want to talk about, how much easier it is since I started to use the Soul Tech Lounge. And the reason that that's important to talk about is because I think for a lot of folks, if you're anything like me, you've had to go trial and error with this stuff. You've had to go, oh, wait a minute, I should apply to Claremont University, clear across in California. And boy, that feels right. But what? I'm living in New Jersey. I just applied to a school in California. How is that even working? Why would I even do that? What's that about? And then lo and behold, time goes by and a series of circumstances happens. You don't get accepted in any of the program, and that one school puts you on a waiting list. But it's what you do in that next moment or how it is enacted that could change your life. What is it about being in the place of knowing? And how is this changed by using something like the Soul Tech Lounge? When we come back, we're going to talk about that and much more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Chris Stanis is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Tune in to The Michael Shane Show, the third Tuesday of each month at 11 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com, and connect with the ascended beings to raise your vibration and manifest the life you desire. Get ready to receive healing through the transphysical mediumship of Reverend Michael Shane and the ascended beings. Visit MichaelShane.com. That's MyChael, Shane.com, and call 425-971-6632 to schedule your full healing session now.
Have you wanted to make more money without working harder or more? Maybe you've tried new ways to bring in extra income without success. Hi, my name is Deb Acker, and in addition to being the host of Truth Talk Radio, I'm an intuitive life coach and energy healer. I clear energy blocks to all areas of life, including abundance. Did you know many times we have an invisible income ceiling? So no matter what we do, our income never goes up, or if our income does go up, we experience an unexpected expense that negates this. How much would it be worth to significantly increase your income or even have unexpected income show up? When I was in the corporate world, I used these techniques to increase my income by tens of thousands of dollars without changing my work routine. In fact, I worked even less, and I now help clients do the same. If this resonates for you and you're truly ready for abundance in your life, I'd love to gift you with my pattern identification session. Simply contact me on the contact page of my website, DeborahAcker.com. That's DeborahAcker.com. And let me know you heard about this gift through Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to connecting soon.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Dr. Dan Cohen's in the house. Divine guidance. You know, what is it about the space of divine guidance that when you're in it, even if you don't think you have the ability to be in it, even if you don't think that there's any guidance out there for you, you know, your life is not about that. You know, things around you are falling apart. Maybe your personal life, maybe your relationship with your children, maybe it's just coming apart. What are some of the things you're hanging on to? And Dr. Dan, I want to talk about this because, you know, you talked about fear. I have a couple of other things I'd like to talk to you about and ask you how they get in the way from that divine guidance. First of all, let's talk about anger. You know, let's talk about resentment. You know, let's talk about some kind of fear, attachment, whatever it is. You know, even when you're driving down the road, people don't think that road rage affects the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. But aren't these, in fact, you know, essences, energies, if we want to call them, that may or may not hinder whatever the guidance is that's trying to get to us?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't appreciate that guidance. You can't appreciate what you truly are when you're essentially living from the vantage point of ego. I mean, when you're holding on to all of that, I mean, you know, anger, any kind of emotion that basically is you recalling what has happened to you in a past event, all you're doing is reenacting the past. So you're stuck in the past. You're not in the present. You know, worry, fear about the future, again, you're not in the present. And so the key is being anchored in the present. And, because you use the Soltec Lounge regularly, you have that ability now to spend most of your day in the present moment. And I'll bet that what you experience mostly is trust. Things are going to work out. And, and so you're not in the past, thinking about, what happened then and remembering those negative senses, feelings. You're not in the future, worried about what might happen. Instead, you're just in the present. You're living your life. Your feeling nature is wide open. You're receptive. So you're open to receive what can come to you. And with that, there's generally a great sense of trust. And those around you can appreciate that, and that resonates. And so what happens is, I'll bet your team literally just falls in line the same way, and things tend to work out because collectively you're basically open to receive the next step. You're on your plan.
what does the energy of anger and resentment have? And, we talked about fear a little bit earlier, but I think that, some people think there are only two emotions, really. One is fear and one is love. There are people that believe that that is the truth, that there are only two, that all these other things that are going on, the resentment, the anger, so forth and so on, are all based out of fear. But in any event, this is the way we express ourselves, right? Some little thing or some big thing, some enormous violation could happen, or, maybe the toothpaste that does not have the cap on it right there. The point is, if we're in that space, we're not in a space of gratitude, we're not in a space of something else, and we're clearly not in a space of possibility. How do we make the shift? What can we do?
Well, I agree with you. I mean, I think it is fear or love, and all these negative emotional states, they're all just variants of fear. That's all. I mean, it's fear of violation. It's fear of being seen or feeling yourself as undeserving. And everything. If you're to evaluate every time you get triggered and feel or express a negative emotion, and you keep asking yourself, why do I feel this way, or when as a child did I feel this way, and you peel the onion, it always gets down to self-worth, undeserving of love. It always spirals down there, and essentially it's fear of being without love. And on the other hand, then there's love, and unfortunately for a lot of people, they haven't had good experience in terms of having been surrounded by love, experiencing love, having been accepted unconditionally in that way. And so it's very difficult for some people to simply just move into that space. It's hard to snap your fingers and saying, well, I'm going to be grateful for just being alive even though my life stinks. I mean, let's face it, all right? It's hard. I mean, how do you expect somebody to just do that if all they've experienced is negativity? And so part of what is necessary at that point is to say, do I want to keep living this way, or do I want to open myself up to the possibility that there's more? Okay? And it's that openness. It just needs a little crack. And you have to, at that point, allow for the development of more. And I think one of the simplest things to do at that point, although it's not necessarily simple for some people, it's ask for the help. Ask for help in receiving love. And, then people say, well, who do I ask? And that's when it gets back into one's, belief system, and it really helps if you believe that there is a higher power. But if all you've experienced in your life is negativity and things of a negative nature and sense of undeservedness, then it makes it hard to believe that a God or some higher power can exist in that kind of realm. But if you can open yourself up to that possibility, then maybe some of that love can start to creep in.
Yeah, I mean, I my go-to now, and I learned this from Glenna Rice, is when all else fails, and I'm in the middle of my stuff. It doesn't matter where it is. I think Dr. Dan and I are talking about a couple of things that where we've had to make some major decisions, right? But this is not always true. I've been at times in my life where I didn't have enough money to buy milk. And, in those moments, you get to really see what's possible. And I've often thought about this. The other day I was sitting here and we were getting sort of the information about what's going to happen and what's not. And I learned the question, what else is possible here? And I got to tell you, Dr. Dan, that combined with having a tool like the chair to help me, start my day in a place of groundedness, I get the answer. And the answer is a new level of awareness. So isn't divine guidance in itself a step towards daily, momentary, annual, whatever we want to call it, awareness shots where we now have a new level of awareness where, wait a minute, Oliver, happy birthday. You know what I'm saying? It's just something we didn't have before in that space.
No, I agree. But you're talking about something that's a little further along, and you've already achieved a way to get there. And so you know how to put yourself into that state, that opening. But you're right. You started out with a possibility.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice way. That's a nice way to start. If you could say, I can accept that there is possibility such that things can be different for my life, and I can be open to that potential, because it's really that openness, that receptivity, that willingness to experience more. Because we really, each of us at our core, are that which we want. So, I mean, what we really want is what we are, right? And the reason you're having so much of an easier time getting there is because you're experiencing that more and more and more. Okay.
Practice.
Yeah, right. But I would argue that that's nothing more than you shifting your sense of self-identity. Because what you're receiving is what you really are. All you're doing is allowing what you are to manifest more throughout your life. But also, I would also suggest that you're feeling it in your body too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Let's take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk with you about feeling it in our body. You know, this is I think, one of the most underrated aspects of who we are, this body we have. What is it when we say, oh, I can feel that in my gut? Does it always have to be like that? Or are there other feelings? Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Dr. Dan Cohen.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
Do you want to achieve your goals? Do you want to strengthen relationships with others? Do you want to improve your financial status? Colette Marie Steffen is partnering with Mark Kettenbach to bring you an energetic upgrade online experience. Unfold and develop your full potential. Visit energeticupgrade.com today for more information. That's energeticupgrade.com.
Are you sick of feeling overworked with no motivation? Take a break from the daily grind. Life coach Nicole Eisler is here to provide a healing journey of optimism. Passionate and caring, Nicole is no ordinary soul. Her dedication to helping everyone has no limit. Witness the power of positivity. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific for Positivity Party Radio with Nicole Eisler on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit BigDreamAwakening.com.
Are you tired of being tired? Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. Did you know the adrenal glands, the workhorse of the body? They are the means by which you position yourself in life for whatever comes your way. Tiny but mighty, producing hormones the body uses to promote energy and vitality. These adrenals determine how you respond to stress, and when depleted, the body loses its ability to function powerfully when we need it most. The much-needed adrenaline or epinephrine is not available for emergency situations. Cortisone and cortisol, the longer-acting anti-stress adrenal hormones, can also become depleted due to the pace of our everyday lives. We overwork and undernutrition our most powerful ally that helps us to live the lives we desire. We are able to determine the optimum function of the adrenals and put your system back in balance. Contact us today to feel powerfully energized at 888-777-4232 or visit us at maryjanemack.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Divine Guidance. Do we feel it in our bodies? And what does that actually mean? I mean, you have heard Dr. Dan and I talk about the Soul Tech Lounge, and you're going to hear a lot more about it, in the weeks to come. But for me, it is an element in my life that could I have achieved what the chair is doing for me? Could I have achieved it on my own? Probably. But what would it have taken to achieve it? I'm not sure. Dr. Dan, before the break, we were talking about the body and feeling things in the body. And, now for me, it's like I can't wait to spend time with the chair because I get to go to a place that happens so quickly. Things around me are immediately, instantaneously shut out. And what happens to me is inexplainable. But you're going to tell us about the body and what the body's reaction to and role is and plays for us in this divine guidance.
Yeah, the body is nothing more than the densest manifestation of what we are as spiritual beings. And so if you think about us as multiple bodies becoming denser and denser and denser, but it's not like we've lost these other bodies. These other bodies are with us because it's really what we are. And what we've done with the Soul Tech Lounge is we've developed a technology that allows for greater spiritualization of the densest matter of the body. See, most people identify with their bodies and their thoughts and their beliefs, and they say, I am my name, and I believe these things, and this is what I stand for. This is who I am. Well, okay, that's who you are as an egotistical being. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's not what you truly are. Because as you go to the less and less dense bodies that are you, these are more and more spiritual, and they have greater and greater interconnectivity with all that is. Okay? And that's truly what we are. But what we've developed is a means of much more greatly integrating our spiritual self, these less dense bodies, with the physical body. And as a result, when you get on the Soul Tech Lounge, you feel it. You end up feeling your spiritual nature because you literally start to feel your intrinsic level of vibration, right? Do you start to feel that? Do you get off the chair and you're humming at a higher level?
Yeah.
Right. Well, over time, the matter of your physical body transforms, and as I've said in the past, there isn't a molecule in your body that was there 7 years ago. So we're changing all the time. And as we change under the influence of greater spiritual integration, the physical body truly is different. And you operate differently, and you literally have a much more sensitive instrument to essentially navigate your path in life through. So you've got this much more exquisitely sensitive body that feels so much more. Because, you talked about knowing earlier. Knowing is not a mental sense. It's a feeling sense. Okay? You know it in the core of your body. I mean, when you say, I know something, you don't say, I think this is right. You say, it feels right to me. Okay? Right. This is your feeling nature. Well, your spiritual self is has phenomenal feeling capability, and that influences the physical body dramatically. I mean, since I've been using this technology for a number of years now, my feeling nature has shifted dramatically. My feeling sense, my ability to experience love and sentimentality and all the deeper positive emotions is so powerful at this point. And when you're in that state, fear, that side of the equation doesn't exist, because love doesn't mix well with lies. And fear is just, they're all lies. Okay, These are lies that we've told ourselves because we don't think we're good enough. That's a lie. Okay? Because we are source. Okay, how could you not be good enough? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. But, many of us have come to believe those lies. But when you have much greater spiritual integration, those lies cannot coexist in your body. And as a result, you feel love, and you basically are in communion with so much more of what you are, which is why you end up knowing how to proceed in life.
One of the things that I mentioned earlier, and I want to get back to it, is I had to let go of the myth. And, you and I have talked about this, and you have been extremely helpful for me. And I can never thank you enough for the chair and for the power that has been part of the process, as you like to say, of just being me. And I think if you don't have something to compare it to, it's hard to say, wow, I really wasn't being me back then. You know what I mean? It's hard to say because you don't have anything to compare it to. But I have something to compare it to now. I have something to say, that thing that would have gotten me all whacked out in the brain and otherwise, and just nervous and anxious and so forth. Wow, it's not even a thought anymore. So I have something to compare it to. And I am so grateful for you and the gift of that chair and for your mentoring along the way. What I love about what you do and what you've created is that this is not for just 1% of the people. And that's the myth, the untruth that I had to let go of, where many of us believe if we're not a guru, if we're not studying on a mountain, if we're not doing this, if we're not in the yoga position, that, if we're not, then we're not going to be able to have that divine guidance. And you have literally rewritten the script on that. So I wanted to ask you, here we're talking about what you've discovered, and I know that the Soul Tech Lounge is out into the world. It's going to be out in the world in a much bigger way. What's your vision, Dr. Dan? What do you see happening as a result of this technology? But more importantly, I had to be willing to try it, right?
Yeah. It's funny that you bring this up because over the past 6 to 8 weeks, I didn't tell you about this the last time we talked, but we've made another discovery related to our technology, and we've taken it further, and we've been experimenting with it. And you talked about, this isn't just for gurus and masters. It's for everybody. And let me tell you something that happened to me a week ago, because it was really bizarre. I was doing a session, and I did something. Normally I connect in and I ground, and as part of a process of just expanding and connecting to all that is. Well, for some reason, I was guided in this session to not do that, and just to go inward towards my center line, my hara line, or whatever you want to call, that vertical power current, that white line in the center where everything connects in. And I went there, and I kept on saying, what am I? What am I? What am I? And I was just drawn into that space. And then I kept getting this image that I was getting taller and taller and taller, and I couldn't fit underneath the door jamb anymore. My head was banging into the door jamb in this vision. And then all of a sudden, this Holstein cow appeared before me, the black and white cow. And it presented me this black disc from its nose, and I placed it on my solar plexus. And then right away, my hara line, that white line, turned black. And I was right there in the midst of creation, the creative force. And then it started to oscillate between black and white and black and white. And then all of a sudden, the music stopped in the chair, and the power went out throughout the entire house. Okay, but the breaker wasn't blown, and but everything in the house was turned off, and we basically lost power. But there was no power outage where I live. And then 15 minutes, it came on all by itself. And my wife, who's very gifted, said, how many times have I told you with this new change in the technology that you need to ground better?
Wow.
And I said, why? And she says, well, your crown chakra, which is normally 6 to 9 inches tall, is now 5 feet tall, and it's 4 feet in diameter.
Well, hold that thought. And we're going to pick up here where we're leaving off, everybody. Dr. Dan Cohen, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat. Stay tuned for another hour of Transformation Talk Radio.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.